Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Headphones podcast. Let's go around and introduce everybody. I am Ryan / TDD Paco. We also have joining us Space Lobster. Say hi, Space Lobster.
Hi, I'm David, also known as Space Lobster or Space Laser.
I like lobster better, but that's just me. All right, anyway.
Yeah.
And then next we have Innova. Say hi, Innova.
Morning. I'm probably not going to say anything in this podcast because I don't have much to talk about, but I'm here.
Thank you for the self-confidence, sir. Yep. And next, we have everybody's favorite goofball, Bag to Milk.
Nobody likes him.
I'm Milk. Hey, Innova, nobody asked for your opinion.
And he pronounced opinion wrong. All right.
I'm from Minnesota, don't you know?
Yeah, me too.
All right, and then for our guest spot today, we have the modder, also dude who makes ZMF headphones, Zach.
Say hi, hey, Zach. Guys. I thought you were going to say my last name, but then I realized you probably didn't know. Zach Mehrbach.
I don't know how to pronounce it. I didn't feel like butchering
it. Hey, everybody. Nice to get on the what is it called? The Headphones podcast? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Me too. All right, so I'll go around and see if anybody's has anybody listened to anything interesting music wise lately? Start off there. How about you, Mr. Space?
This is pure silence. No.
The new Radiohead album is pretty good.
Oh, I haven't heard of Radiohead or Radiohead.
Is it different than their previous stuff, or does it follow along the same lineage of the kind of indie alternative kind of thing they started doing? I've always done.
I like it a lot more than King of Limbs. It feels a lot more. Feels like it has more personality, I think. But I don't know. It's not a very happy album though, so I could see people not liking it.
I just listened to Untitled the other day. I don't even know how I got, because you just follow a chain of everything, and I started listening to the latest album by Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails. I don't even know. I was probably a couple of years old at this point, but I don't know. It was interesting just because when I was a kid in the 90s, that stuff was just huge. So you guys listen to that? What the hell is it called? It's called to look it up. Does anyone else listen to Nine Inch Nails anymore? Or do you have to be in your 30s? And
no, I did when I was a teenager.
I listen to stuff older than that.
Are you thinking
I listened to his Ghosts?
Yeah, there was Ghosts in the Slip and Year Zero with Teeth.
Yeah, the Slip was cool.
I think With Teeth was my favorite album. You have to listen.
Whenever I'm testing headphones, I always think of Ray Samuels from Ray Samuels RSA amps, and I think he's semi-retired now or whatever. But one of the first times I went and had a prototype of the Vibro, and I wanted him to hear them, and he the only thing he tests anything on is for vocals is it has to be Diana Krall. So I since then I've always listened to Diana Krall to test female vocals on headphones, because she is kind of a standard. She's a deep voice that has a lot of range and everything. And I always hear his voice in my head. He goes, "Zach, you need to test with Diana Krall. These sound terrible." We're talking about my Vibro prototype, so I kept tweaking it until I got the Ray Samuels approval. But yeah, so I always, even today, was listening to Diana Krall this morning just to test some headphones. So there's a little nugget for you.
I haven't listened to much stuff from her. Well, I need to really.
You gotta be into that kind of eclectic jazz. It's almost not enjoyable, some of it.
It's just technically for testing.
Well, some of it's great. Some of it's it's just kind of, well, there she is again.
Some people feel that way about the HE 560 and the HD 800 at times. I don't really enjoy it, but it's so technically proficient. You know.
I like the HD100.
Oh yeah, I like it too. Yeah, 30 minutes I listened to it. Innova, you listen to anything cool lately?
Nothing terribly notable, really. The Mountain Goats beat the champ.
I've never heard of that, but that sounds somewhat interesting.
The Mountain Goats? Is that guy, this folk singer type guy?
Kinda, I guess.
He's I saw him live once, I think. Mountain. I'm looking it up now to make sure. Yeah, I saw that guy live once. Can't say I enjoyed it, but it was just him though, not his whole band.
Oddly
Yeah.
enough, the only people I've ever seen live was the B-52s
That's the only
And-
concert you've ever been to?
and Ludacris.
Oh, okay. So you've been to 2 concerts.
And Nelly. I forgot about Nelly. I went to a
Oh,
Nelly concert
yeah.
back when he was big. Yeah.
What did you see him perform Hot in Her?
No, this was way after that.
Ew.
That was actually oddly one of the songs it's Hot in Her. Anyway, Bagged, have you heard anything cool lately?
I was just listening to Fleetwood Mac live today, I guess.
This is a
Yeah.
throwback.
I believe it was a concert recorded a few years ago. I mainly listen to 70s through 80s, so, you know.
Man, you were like... you were kind of old soul-y there, aren't you?
Yes, indeed.
Fair enough. Let's move on to news. So we got a new Grado headphone being made. How do you guys feel about that?
Isn't it Grado?
It doesn't really matter now, does it?
Not really.
But, so how about you, Mr. Space Laser? How do you feel about it?
Well, it's probably not going to be as good as the PS500, so we'll see.
Is there a projected price point on the new Grado?
$2,000.
It's like 1400, isn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
it was 1400.
I thought it was.
It was $2,000.
Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'm probably wrong. Let me check real quick.
1400. It probably costs
Fishka said 1400, so
Buy now on their site. Yeah, about that.
$13.95.
Can I be completely honest? It looks like it takes about $30 to manufacture.
You're
I'm not
probably
gonna
not
lie.
too far off.
That's probably like all the R&D. Like, how can we make a headphone like this not suck?
But guys, you can get a 4-pin XLR cable on it now. First time in Greedo history.
So you can get removable cables.
No, it's not removable. It's just
It's
you can
just
get a 4-pin XLR option.
Oh, on the other end. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't expect a Greedo to be convenient.
Let's add the termination that is heavier than the actual headphone.
That's true.
I've honestly never liked them because they've always been a little too...
They seem to like make their headphones as like difficult to use as possible. I don't understand it.
and on-ears have never really been comfortable to me.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to see if the KSC75 out resolves it, to be honest.
It's probably still worse than the Porta Pro.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe it'll surprise us and make something actually good.
Well, they have a 50mm driver now.
What was it before, like 44 millimeters or something?
Something like that.
49.5 probably. I rag on them, but they have their fan base, and a lot of people seem to like them somewhat.
There was
Guys,
just an
it's
HP 1000 that went for about $1,800 from memory on eBay.
yeah, HP 1000, HP 2 are both good.
All right. Well, this next thing isn't really news, but the HD 800's been rapidly dropping in price ever since the HD 800S decided to become a thing. I think what you can get like a used. I saw one used pair for $650 at one point on Headphone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I've
seems
been
kind
waiting
of-
for something like that to happen again so I can grab one.
Yeah, you can get one in like semi decent condition between like 600 and 650 if you're patient.
At that point, I'm like, why even buy any headphones that cost more than it?
Yeah, I mean once you get that level, you're pretty much done.
Yeah. Like,
can-
well, I guess my next step is getting a planner that I happen to like the tuning of, or a
Or ZDS.
electrostat or something.
Yeah, I still like the H800 or H800S on like a super expensive tube amp. It's still probably the best, most enjoyable headphone I've heard. It's got to be one of those super expensive Eddy Current or Cavallis or I don't know.
I heard
about
it
the
off
ZMF amp?
Glen OTL. It was
Sounds great on
pretty
the
good.
ZMF amp.
All right, sounds good to me.
I was gonna ask you about that later, but then I'm like, it's not on his website yet, so I don't know if I want to.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm open to talking about anything you guys want to know about the amp. It is very close to being done. It's just after my experience with releasing the Omni, feeling like it was 97% done, and then taking 3-4 months to get those last 3%. I've been a little bit more lenient on announcing stuff officially because I want to have the product able to ship before I start building up a frenzy or whatever you want to call it.
I don't want to have one of those. Everybody has a different sounding pair situation.
Like Mr. Speakers.
Hey, I wasn't gonna say that. Bagged, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, we gotta at least be a little neutral here. I mean, All right, so I was looking at the voice chat and I see over here Odyssey dodged a bullet there. Odyssey never dodges a bullet; they're too heavy. All right, so this week, Mad Economist launched his headphone, the Talos, which is a pretty pleasant V-shaped headphone. Or as, actually, I'm not going to say that on the podcast, what people have named it. But, yeah.
Does it have a
Nice.
vulgar nickname or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
look in the voice
You
chat.
could say
Yeah.
that.
Hold on,
Look at
I'll,
the voice
I'll
chat.
link you to
All
the
right, let me
voice chat.
scroll down. Let me scroll down.
There you go. I called you over to the voice chat. Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm gonna skip this. I can't say it. It's gonna piss off some people.
Oh, I think I'm in the wrong. I need to go to the headphones one. Here we go.
Oh yeah, hold on. I typed it in there for you. All right. So he launched his. It had a sale where it was $200, and that lasted about 12 hours before they were all sold out there. And now they're back up to $250, but for $250, they're actually really good. I was surprised. One of the few V-shaped signatures I've ever enjoyed. I know Innova's going to hear a pair soon.
Maybe that's an unknown as of right now.
Oh, okay.
Because it was supposed to be for the meet, but I don't think I can head to the local Minnesota meet.
Just let some random stranger take you.
Yeah, because that'll fare well.
I mean, like 3 people offered.
Well, like one did, but
Well, there'd be 3 people in his trunk. What? Anyway, moving on. So Everybody, does anyone remember Philip's Golden Ears thing?
Yep.
It was fun times teaching people how to listen to things critically. Have you ever heard that one, Zach?
The that Phillips Golden Ears, the tests and all that.
Yep. To make sure. Hey, do you have the golden ears?
I had I actually never did it. No, I just maybe I don't know if I have golden ears or not.
I went most of the way through it and got bored and wandered off and never finished.
I heard it took a long time to do.
Entirely too long. But yeah, so Isotope, lowercase I, capital ZOTOPE, came out with their own little replacement for Philips Golden Ears. I haven't tried it out yet, but it looks semi-interesting. Hopefully it won't take as much time as it took for the Golden Ears. That took forever.
Also, that Harman How to Listen.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, it's got some things like, yeah, you can learn about your passions, like mixing and mastering, and then we'll sell you some stuff for it.
Isotope's based in Russia. They made those big planars. Is that the company?
Is it?
Or is that a different company?
I think that may be it.
That was Mist, Isophones.
Oh, okay. So I'm getting confused with the ISO part.
I was about to make a Chernobyl joke featuring isotopes, but I figured that was a little too nerdy for even headphones. Man, it's really slow headphones news wise. I noticed there's a Can Jam London coming back another year over on Headfi.
What about the Andromeda? There's been some hype around that.
Oh, you want to go ahead and tell us about it, Mr. Space?
I've only seen the reports from SBAF, but supposedly it's quite the IAM. I'm pretty eager to try it if I can. Supposedly it's supposed to be like a UERM but better, which has me pretty excited.
Oh, I remember that.
It's my favorite IAM.
Was this that thing that got
Yeah, Marv was ecstatic about it. OJ liked it a lot. Well,
OJ
actually, I don't know if
and
OJ's heard
then,
it. Yeah, OJ liked it.
Yeah, and did that create a bit of a controversy over on the subreddit?
Yeah, it did.
Campfire. What about it?
I think Marv and Vinny were not Marv and Vinny. OJ and Vinny were arguing.
Yeah, let's not bring that up though.
Yeah, let's move on from that. Before
I've heard the I got to hear the Andromeda and Noble K10 back to back. Got to compare them quite a bit, and yeah, I guess I would say listen to them both because in my session with them I felt like there were certain things that the K10 did better than the Andromeda, certain things that Andromeda did better than the K10. So they're both definitely top class universal IEMs though.
I've always had difficulty trying to listen to IEMs. I don't know if it's just my ear or what. I've never really.
Yeah, I had issues with the fit for the K10, but I have kind of weird ear canals, so custom IEMs are pretty much the only way I can go.
Did you try the new one with the aluminum shells? They fit a little bit differently.
Yeah, I haven't tried the newer ones yet. I only heard the first versions.
Yeah, I mean, they honestly probably don't fit too differently than the original ones, but I do know that any of those high driver count IEMs, they have such big shells that they can be. Like I tried a JH Audio, one of the ones with like 14 drivers in it or something, and I could not figure out how it was. Because even when I think I had it fitting in my ear correctly, it felt like it wasn't supposed to be there. So
Yeah, I think they can kind of position them a little bit farther up in the ear canal in customs,
yeah,
but it seems like with universals, you're kind of at the mercy of your genetics to get a good fit.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
But well,
My genetics
anyway,
enabled me to have a very large head, very large. So like even with this, even with the Blackwood I'm wearing right now, it's about like 2 centimeters from being a little too far stretched down, and that even went like the HE 560s. I could never get a proper fit with those because my head's so large.
Huh,
yeah,
Same with
really?
the X2.
I use them pretty much at like the maximum yoke size in the 560 and the 400i. But I guess I have a big head.
I'm a rather tall individual though, so it's not like I'm a giant
you're
head
like
and a small
6'4".
body.
Oh no.
I'm just a giant head and a slightly smaller than giant body.
How tall? How tall are you?
6'4".
It's a perfect height. It's like a NBA shooting guard.
Yeah, yeah. I have not had anybody tell me that since high school.
Oh yeah.
Fun times. Yep, that's about it for news, honestly. There hasn't been very much been going on. It's been mostly if you follow the computer world, there's been more news over there with the new video graphics cards, but that's about it really. Here's a nice discussion. So we'll save Zach's opinion on this for last because he's the most experienced with this. But what do you guys think are the strengths and weaknesses of the T50 driver? Let's start with Space Lobster.
My main issue is pretty much the treble spike, like around, I guess it's around like 6 or 7K, I think.
Oh,
Uh,
10K. 10K.
Is it 10K?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Whatever it is.
It's
I guess
around
whatever it is in the Alpha Dog and the Alpha Dog Prime that makes it sound like you're listening in a cave. That's
Oh,
probably my most annoying thing.
the Alpha Prime one's like this weird flat top that goes on from 8 to 11, I want to say. And
Yeah,
then just drops.
It feels like there's a lot of ringing or something going on, but whatever it is, it just feels really unnatural and weird.
There's a bit of mid-range distortion from that V
Yeah.
thing.
The planer thing, whatever they did. But whatever it is, it doesn't sound very good to my ears, so.
I like the Mad Dog, which I found was... I know that's getting more and more unpopular as time goes on. So, Nova,
What's up?
what do you think of the T50 driver?
I haven't modded my pair of T50RP MK2s or listened to any modded pairs, so I don't really have a stance on this at all.
Oh, darn, man. You just like get some for like $30. Just go at it. It's great.
I still haven't heard a T50RP mod that I've liked, but then again, I haven't heard the Omni. I might like that.
Talos.
Tell us to.
Blackwood's pretty good. That's my favorite one from Zach.
Definitely the most sexual T50 mod name as well.
So you do know that it sounds like a sex toy.
Oh, inadvertently by teaming up with Vibro Labs, it's Vibro Labs. I mean, you don't immediately think of a headphone speaker. If you go searching for what does Vibro Labs mean, I mean, you start to, if you're a man and have a dirty mind, you start to think of dildos, of course. So vibrating big dildos. So I mean it. And I've heard that a lot of times from people like, why the hell did you name this the Vibro? It sounds like a sex toy. So I was like, I didn't mean to. That's what the guy named his company. So
Good thing you didn't make your little
doesn't-
slogan "Got Wood," or else people would be googling that and not getting
Right.
headphones anytime soon.
It doesn't
yeah,
help that you added the X in there, you know?
Yeah, I actually talked to Luke about that, and he was adamant that that's how the new way companies were um, showing collaboration. And he is right that there's a number of collaborations that have the X, though, but it does also make it look more obscure and kind of taboo kind of way. So,
Well, since we passed this barrier, I can now safely tell you that the Cascadia Audio Talus is affectionately known as the Cum Dog. Yes. So,
and why is that?
it was. I don't even know who started it. It was probably bagged.
Mad
but-
Economist, at the time of the name, Mad Economist did not have a name for the Talos. So the Discord made a name.
It
Cum
was
Dog.
probably gross oak, you know.
I'm
But
not
now,
sure if
There's that picture
I think it
floating
was
around
actually.
of
Oh,
Pokemon wearing the headphone.
No. Oh no.
Yeah, and with cum dogs on the side of it.
Oh my god. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, if you go
The
on
voice
the
chat.
voice chat thing, some people are posting pictures of the Pokemon picture. Yeah, good times, good times.
Cum Dog Millionaire. Mm. Oh, we're gonna get sued by film business now.
Oh, just make sure Matt doesn't see this
Now he's gonna see it.
podcast. Oh shit. That's beautiful.
Actually, it was good to be on that next week, but I guess not anymore. Ruin that, thanks. So, now we get to the man himself, who actually knows this driver probably more than the people who made it. So, Zach, what do you feel are the strengths and weaknesses of the good old T50?
I mean, I guess modifying the T50 driver is basically trying to lessen the weaknesses as much as possible. And I mean, starting with the weaknesses, I mean, if you look at the stock headphone, it has a bass roll off, which is actually more because of how they've always designed the baffles than anything. And there's some mid-range distortion that actually shows up in depending on the batch, and that's the main thing you're fighting. And if I had to say the one thing that I hate the most about the T50 drivers is that they're inconsistently produced, and by that I mean they have very, I guess you would say, low tolerances, meaning there's a lot of variance between the drivers when you get them. So usually I've actually been buying bigger and bigger batches because I've been able to, because I've been selling more headphones. And the good part about that is that if I'm only buying 10 at a time, I have 10 headphones that usually out of that batch are pretty similar. And now if I'm buying 50 or 100 at a time, usually those, they came in on the same crate, they were tested at the same time. But the problem you can run into is that there's a large variance between factory runs, and so the challenge can be, oh, I'm making 8 Omnis this week, and I need to replace the drivers on 2 of them because 2 of them don't measure up to snuff or whatever. And I need to find a driver, and so I have to go test them until I can find one that matches close enough. And by matching, I mean doesn't have huge anomalies and frequency response, and at least can be tuned to my target curve, which every headphone is tuned to. So that's the big, and from a manufacturing standpoint, that's the biggest issue. That won't matter as much to someone who's just modifying one set, I guess. Yeah, there's some mid-range distortion. There's that treble peak. The treble peak can be modified to be in different places. It can be in 6, 7K. If you do certain modifications, it can be in 10K. Like Dan, when he did the V-planar stuff, apparently flattened it to be more extended. But and the only downside to flattening it sometimes is that depending on the method used to flatten out that peak, you can be taking away from some other area. You might be, to flatten it, you might be making the mid bass higher, or do other things. So that's a pretty good overrun of the weaknesses. Of the positives, are that it is, highly adapts to different frequency response patterns. Because you can't get rid of that peak. I do think it suits a dark sound signature really well. It's just resolving enough to be able to get enough micro detail to where you're not missing too much in the music, but but still sounds like a headphone with a good amount of clarity. And for a tiny driver that's only 1.5 inches or so in a square, um, it you can get quite a bit of sub bass out of it if you do the certain things to it. And it also, because of the way they tune the driver, you can get pretty decent mid range. So I mean, it's a driver with faults, but it's a driver that can do a lot of things pretty well. So it's adaptable, I guess. There are a lot of drivers, to be honest. Most drivers, if enough time is spent to come up with a standard operating procedure that you can figure out from the enclosure what's going to make that particular driver sound the best. It's just this one, fortunately for all of us that have done it, have found a way to work with the weaknesses and strengths to try to make headphones.
Trying to remember, there's a certain law about like you have to have like there has to be trade-offs for a large amount of sub bass, and I think it was driver size, efficiency, and chamber size. It's like some weird thing where if you have like you can't have a small efficient driver being like a small enclosure, or else it just doesn't output enough sub bass. And if you increase the inefficiency or chamber size, it would actually help bass quite a bit with extension. I can't remember what that law is called. The same.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but that is what we did with the Omni, was increase the chamber size. And honestly, at the beginning, gave it too much size by opening too many ports, because the final version of the Omni usually has 2 or 3 of those ports you see in the front closed, depending on the driver batch. But yeah, I mean, to get the full amount of sub bass, it did need a slight bigger enclosure.
Did I end up having one of those pre-production runs with the walnut one?
So there were a number of early sets, and because of the change to the new baffle, we actually, over the first, I think it was probably after the first 25 sets or so, developed a couple new parts to cut. Basically, what was happening was I was losing a lot of drivers because of some of the inconsistencies in manufacturing from the Fostex driver enclosure. And I'm pretty sure your first set didn't have this. And what we did was created some new gaskets, used some new screws, added method of putting everything back, because all the magnets come out and get modified and everything. Then they all get put back in the driver. And what we found through doing that a bunch of times, that I specifically found, was that the tolerances on the enclosure wasn't fully tight around the driver, which was causing more distortion sometimes than others, which is, I've actually found weirdly in the new Fostex Mark III models, that it innately is worse than it was on the Mark II. Their enclosures just are not very well designed. So there's even been stock models I've sold that come back that to fix, I just have to put these new parts in them so that they don't have certain high frequency weirdness, or a number of mid-range distortion, just anything you can think of that a driver could do to sound wonky.
Huh. Yeah, I wonder if like I had felt that I had liked the one a little bit. I wonder if that had something to do with it. I guess I'd have to listen to
I will say, I'm actually thinking about getting rid of walnut, because I I don't know if this is placebo or not, but I have a feeling that the resonance of walnut, because it's right in that middle ground of being in a density of zero point 0.6 or so. I have a feeling there's some resonance in that wood that creates some kind of hashy, unwanted frequency. Because every wood has a kind of like magic frequency that it kind of resonates more than others. Um, and it's more obviously that's more important in musical instruments, but it does somewhat account to headphones because even though you're damping the crap out of it, you're still gonna have the wood still shaking. It still has pore size, all that stuff. And I don't know, walnut sets for some reason, even though a lot of people like the way they look, have never turned out as good as a lot of the other woods. And just to my taste, of course, there's people who have them and like them a lot.
Well, you know my taste. I didn't really like the walnut. I preferred the cherry and the blackwood to them.
Yeah, which is understandable from my experience too.
What about the Purple Heart?
Purple Heart's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'd like to try a Purple Heart at some point.
Ishka loved the Purple Heart. Like, he thinks that was the best one.
Yeah, he was the one that got me on that.
Yeah, he also was the one that made me ask Zach, like, hey, you have one of those sets? Those Purple Heart Blackwood sets, Turns out he did. So I'm happy. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably try to do another Purple Heart run at some point. It seems to be a popular wood, and it is a nice density of one of the nicer sounding woods for sure.
I think Matt Economist said that randomly 1 out of 15 drivers in the T50RP MK3 has better bass extension.
Yeah.
The T50, the Mark III ones have more variance than the Mark II ones did at the end. I have a feeling they're still working out some of their tolerances on the Mark III version, and I think it has more to do with the way the baffle's made than anything, because the actual driver was changed. I don't know, 2014. At the end of 2014, they changed the driver for the TH 500, and it caused a lot of problems. And it was actually with a few points where Dan and I communicated about what we were doing to deal with it. And then they finally settled on a driver, and they haven't changed it since. Even between the Mark II and Mark III, it's the exact same membrane. They just changed a lot of the other stuff around it. So, but there is some variance going on there that's a little bit higher than the Mark II.
I like Dan's answer to the new Mark III. Well, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame him, to be.
Yeah, I heard that the Mr. Speaker's driver is actually Fostex OEM, but I'm not sure.
I honestly would be shocked if it wasn't, because if you look at the magnet array, it's the same. But I have no idea. So
you mean for the
ether?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the driver or anything, but somebody showed me some picture of just the magnet, the front of the headphone, and you can see the magnets are just longer and the same. Of course, it's a stock magnet, I'm sure. So
is it a square driver still?
I don't know.
You're asking him questions about a competitor's headphone. I think he's starting to go.
Yeah. I honestly, ever since I first started doing this and found out that, in business there is competition and things can get a little weird because of that, I have almost steered clear of looking at anyone else's headphones and or talking about them. So yeah, someone just posted the picture on the voice chat.
The space. I actually, I really liked it when I heard it. Yeah.
Wait, TFTRP for $1,500.
It is. There is something. It's not. I mean, it definitely does not sound like TFTRP anymore.
Whatever he did.
Yeah, it doesn't at all. And
I'm sure it's some false.
Either that or he took a T50 RP driver and just went like, I'm just gonna make this bigger, and then he decided to design one off of that.
If you look at that picture, that is no freaking T50.
Yeah, no, it looks exactly like a T50 RP driver though, except just bigger.
Sorry, looks quite a bit bigger.
We can't. In that picture we can't see the traces or anything.
Yeah.
Those are just the magnets.
I'm picturing Dan in his lab, just like putting together several T50s, all like good ones that had really good things in specific areas, and then laughing as he has Peter just pull the lever and lightning flows down and the headphone has come alive, and it's the ether. But yeah, that'd be fun. But yeah, I heard the ether 1.1, and it actually surprised how it sounded. It was
You
quite
should make
good.
like a carbon fiber Omni.
Oh.
Yeah, call it the Zether. Perfect idea. Great idea. I'm writing it down right now.
The ZMF Aether.
Modify ether.
Modify either, okay.
In my notes. Yeah.
All right, so
Have you used any of the old T50 drivers, like from the 70s?
Oh no. Every time I look and interested in buying them, they're more money than I want to spend. Probably.
Yeah,
They're not too much on eBay.
Aren't they like 500 bucks?
Yeah, they're 500 about there.
Yeah.
All right, I'm thinking about the T20s.
I assume I would just break it. So.
Yeah, you could look into like a T20 or a T10.
Cheaper?
Yeah, they're a lot cheaper. Plus, they don't require too much modding to get to sound good. I think the drivers are better than the new T50 RP drivers, to be honest, too.
Probably. The technology hasn't changed much. They probably just tried to make them cheaper to make.
Oh, here comes the fun part of the show now. I had people submit some questions for you, Zach.
Beautiful.
We have about
do we get to find out who they are, or is it anonymous?
It's anonymous. They didn't really put their name.
That's inappropriate.
We actually already answered one at the beginning of the show. What was your reference album? Yeah.
Ray Samuels tells me it's Diana Krall. No, I have a playlist on Tidal. I'd be happy to share it if you guys want to.
Oh yeah, that'd be
check it
fun.
out.
Yeah, if you send that to me, I can email that to me, and I can put it with the podcast on.
Yeah.
Upload it.
Awesome.
So, what are your goals when tuning a headphone?
Diana Krall sound good.
Yeah, I mean that's a very broad question, but I guess the main goal is to make a product that is consistent throughout its range. So I'll tune a headphone in a manner that I think can be repeated easily throughout a manufacturing process and sounds good to people who, I think everybody knows I have a slightly darker, slightly bassier downslope kind of frequency response pattern to music. So my goal is to kind of stick to that, sound signature that I like and make sure that it can be manufactured in somewhat of a timely manner so people don't have to wait longer than a month to get headphones, hopefully.
So, actually, we already sort of asked you what compromises do you feel necessary with.
Yeah, I mean you have to figure out where the hell you want the peak and how you're going to damp it, and yeah, I mean that's the main compromise, and the other compromise is just you have to realize that there's going to be 0.5 to 0.7% distortion spikes that come up in some of the drivers, and if you they're not, unless you're really comparing to a headphone that has super low distortion, you're probably not going to be able to focus too much on them, but it's there and people are going to be able to measure it. And, so those are the two main things. And the other thing is it's a small driver, and so it has a specific sound because it's 1.5 inch, square versus a 2 to 3 inch driver like some of the larger planar headphones. So you're not your capabilities of soundstage are going to be more based on tuning and how you use the enclosure that's around it versus having those long traces in different parts, of the driver make sounds. So.
All right, this next one might rub you the wrong way. Do you ever feel that the T50 has held you back at all?
No, I mean, honestly, I can't say it's held me back because it's the only driver that I've commercially used so far. So I mean, yes, it's a driver that has its negatives, and I think because it's a driver that comes from another headphone that's commercially made, people know a lot more open information is out there about it, which allows it to be open to a lot of scrutiny. And so, I mean, no, it hasn't held me back in a way that, I mean, the only reason I have a business now is because of the driver. So I can't say it's held me back because, but and I guess they probably mean, has it held you back in like, oh, if you went to another driver, would you be able to do so much more? And I mean, I guess the answer is I don't know, because I have projects that I've been working on. I have no idea, when my first non T50 headphone will come out. But to say that the T50 is holding me back, I don't know. I guess I can't really say a definitive yes or no to that right now because I don't have another product out that's not a T50 driver. So
We all know how Dan felt about it.
well, I mean, I guess you could say yes in the terms of holding me back as far as yes, production times take longer because you have to deal with the issues that are innate to the driver. But I can't say that any other driver doesn't have issues. I mean, you look at Odyssey, they've had inconsistencies. You look at Mr. Speakers, there's been little inconsistencies. Anyone who's done T50 drivers has inconsistencies. You look at the Nighthawk, there were a couple different tunings right at the beginning. Audio Quest with that. Hi-Fi Man had issues with headphones having to be sent back for certain reasons. So there's every single company that exists is gonna have some kind of issue they deal with at one point or the other, and I don't know if I can completely blame that just on the driver.
Oh yeah,
Don't think it'd be fair. I don't think the driver would like me anymore if I put it down.
You had you need to spend hundreds of millions on art to try to find it. Unless your name was Sennheiser. But
the ZMF times Sennheiser coming soon.
Oh, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Here, I put a question to you real quick. Just say yes or no.
Sure.
Okay, sure. Okay. So, I'm reading these questions word for word, mind you. Okay. Anyway,
okay.
The fuck is up with that dynamic driver, dog?
I mean, I can't. There's no real exact comment I can make on it. I mean, if I come out with a dynamic driver headphone, then we'll know what the fuck be up with it. But I don't even know. Yeah, of course I've messed around with other drivers, but I don't even know if it's going to work out or not at this point. And I obviously have been talking to a lot of driver companies trying to figure out where I want to go, with future drivers and stuff. So hopefully that works out, homie.
I just imagined, you're thinking in your mind, I left that out and I regretted it ever since.
I mean, I can't remember who I've told about what I've been doing, but you know.
I forgot
But I
who
mean,
it was.
but I mean, clearly I'm a headphone company, and I'm gonna be playing around with stuff all the time, just until I come up with something that works for us. And yeah, I mean, so there's dynamic drivers, there's planar drivers, there's electrostatic drivers. They all have things they do well and things issues. So
Ooh, mod the abyss.
yes, yeah.
Mod
The-
stacks.
You lose about
one
$3
for
grand
10
on every
grand.
headphone, but worth
It's
it.
abyss.
But I remember if OJ was on here, he would start going on a rant right about now on whether or not dynamic drivers and how superior they are to planers. But I think he would look forward to a dynamic driver by you, though. His real secret is that a certain T50 mods his daily headphone. The Paradox. It's kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, I mean,
He
everybody's
shits
got their
all over
preferences.
250 RP mods, and yet he has one himself that he loves. So
It's the first one of its kind too. He has 0001.
It's a collector's item.
But yeah, it is.
I think I'm
So
gonna buy a Paradox actually. Looking around for one now.
So how about your new tube amp?
Oh
That's the
yeah,
next question.
so I been working with an engineer, this guy Dan Cheever, who has done a lot of freelance work for Bricasti, which is a kind of boutique audio company. But he had a design for a speaker amp, and I met him at a Headphone meet at New Hampshire, which I think Ishka or Kyle was at, and then slowly just began saying, if you did this and this, and you could make it into a headphone only amp. And he was like, I don't want to get rid of the speakers. So then I finally got him to make a totally different model that was just headphone based, and talked him through what impedances would work for headphones, and specifically my headphones. I sent him a pair of Omnis, and this have been kind of hammering out prototypes since January or so. And it's getting closer to being released. We're hoping to have it, on the website in June at some point. But it's a single-ended triode amp. It has a 4-pin XLR jack for convenience. It's not true balance. And Dan did his thesis for electrical engineering on distortion and what kind of distortion is pleasurable to listen to in a tube amp or any amp, and what kind of distortion is bad. And so what he did is he tested out all these tubes for that paper, and found that this 4P1L tube for 41NP, and it's a Russian tube that was made during all the wars that happened in the 40s, 50s, 60s. And it has a metal octal base, and it has the lowest measured distortion for a rectifier of any tube. And so we're using that as the rectifier tube, and then we're going to have a 6SN7 in the input stage, and a 12AX7 in the gain stage. And it can be 12AT7 too, any of those mini bass. And it's going to have 2 gain stages. It has a bias meter in the back, so you can manually adjust the 2 rectifier tubes to how much they're outputting as far as power. And so you can match tubes that are unmatched in the back, and there will be a little meter you can plug it into, a little digital meter where you can actually see the output reading to match them. And it's going to have big wooden girthy knob, and a wooden faceplate that you can choose. And I'm hoping that it's going to be right around $1,000. And it sounds, and the true goal is to make it sound as good as it can with the Sennheiser HD series for high impedance headphones, and then also run planars, because there's really not too many tube amps that are great at both. And so the biggest issue we've had coming out, finishing it up, was to figure out what the tube complement needed to be. and in that he first had these 6 CG72s in them, which were a modern 6SM7 copy, and then he had 2 6SM7s in them, because I said it's got to be 6SM7s. All these headphone people have 6SM7s already. They're popular, and the Woo amps are popular. All these amps use them. There's a huge thread on Head5 about 6SM7s, and then we realized we couldn't get the gain variants that we needed with 6SM7s, so that we switched one of them out for the 6S7, then decided to go 12AX7 because it was cheaper and much more rollable. And the 12AX7 will allow us to have all that gain that we need, high and low for, high impedance headphones, low impedance headphones, hard to drive orthos. So, I mean, I guess it's dangerous to say we're trying to make it do everything well, but we're trying to make it do most things well, specifically high impedance Sennheisers and orthodynamic headphones. I don't think it's going to do, I think a third best will be easier to drive, 32 ohm dynamic drivers. But then again, it's like, if you have one of those, why are you, you don't need to spend $1,000 on a tube amp if you're only going to listen to, super easy to drive, Nighthawks or whatever, you know what I mean? So,
well, there's also the TH900, and I know people like to buy Bakkuns for that.
Oh, you need that voltage. I mean, so yeah, the ZMF amp's gonna have 21.5 volts, I believe, output. That was the last measurement.
Does it have speaker taps too?
Our version will not. There is another version of the amp that I'm not selling that didn't get converted to a headphone amp that I believe has a headphone out, and he's still adjusting some of the stuff based on what we do with the headphone amp to it. And I don't know exactly where that's going to be sold. I believe it might be through a local audio store in New Hampshire that it ends up getting sold for, called, what is it called?
The
Isha can write it.
Edition.
Yeah, I was about to say if it would drive an HE6.
Yeah.
Might be difficult. It's a beast of a headphone.
Is my mic sounding okay? Someone said my mic is bugging out.
Yeah, it was off and on. It's getting better now.
Good.
I told him don't jinx you.
I don't know. Let me fiddle.
Yeah, you're good. Don't worry. You're good now. So a certain Chinese amp DAC manufacturer is very popular on the Discord chat here. They go by Audio GD, and they want to ask your opinion on them.
Little Dot?
Oh God, no.
Oh,
anyway,
no.
Little ZMF. What's my opinion on Audio GD? I use a Master 11 to tune every headphone, measure every headphone. I initially had a 10.33 and then an NFP 28, and then he came out with the the Master 11, and I decided I had to have it. So
you like those 1704s?
In the
DAC section.
I know there's been on numerous DAC forums and places where people say, "Oh, they're so syrupy, they're so milky sounding, or it's so dark." But honestly, I haven't heard them in a lot of other configurations. I've heard other iterations of that chip in, I don't know, old Theta DACs and other DACs, but I've never found it to be over encompassing in a dark or murky way or anything. I'm gonna be selling the Metrum DACs along with the ZMF amp, and if you really want to hear an amp that is natural and kind of dark and murky sounding, but not in a bad way at all, listen to some of those non-oversampling units. Those go even further in that direction. So the reason I like the Audio GD is I put them in the middle of all the DACs I've heard, and most of their gear is kind of in the middle too. It's not too bright. It's not super dark. It's right down the middle. And just so you have a reference from kind of what I am talking about there, is that I like shit audio very popular company. I typically think of their amps as being a little bit dry, a little bit thinner than most standard amps. And then if you think on the other side of things, I guess like bioelectric amps are pretty dark, you know. So Audio GD, I feel like sits very close to the middle, maybe a little bit smoother, a little bit darker than true middle ground, but somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I use a 28 myself, so I pretty much agree with you.
I know.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does the Saber chip, at least to my ears. I haven't heard one that I like more than the Audio GDs for Saber.
Yeah, it avoids that kind of glare that a lot of the Oppos have.
Yeah.
Space over there actually. My the 28 I used to own. He was the guy I sold it to.
Oh yeah. What do you have now?
NFB 11.
Cool. Audio GD, keeping it strong. If Kingwa would just make his website look like, I don't know.
If
it was just like
1999 even.
Wouldn't it be great if you just had pictures of like babes wearing headphones or something? Just I don't know. It's like almost so like it looks like it was made in the 90s. He should just roll with that theme and like go super 90s and chicks listening to Nirvana albums and stuff. Or
Wisdom in mind, enthusiast at heart.
yes, I love it.
I forget his other quote. It's something about water.
Really?
Let me look for it.
I want to meet Kingwa. So maybe I need to go to like the Munich show or something. I wonder if he goes to that.
Does he go to those?
Nice guy.
He's always been super.
Nice.
He's gives me a manufacturer discount when I buy stuff from him, and I mean he's always been super nice.
Can you order
some
some
just send him
for me?
Yeah, it's not a big discount, but I should just send him an Omni, right? See what he does.
Maybe you could get an amp deal like you did with the other guy.
He did trade a bunch of wire. Probably shouldn't even be telling you, but he did work out some kind of deal with my buddy Peter at Double Helix Cables for wire for an amp or something.
Huh.
So he's wheeling and dealing that Kingwa.
Oh, I have a question I've been curious about for a while. Have you seen the new Fostix dynamic drivers, the one that are priced similarly to the T50 series?
I saw them show up in my Fostix dealer price list, but I was like, should I get one of those? But then I was like, as I have already mentioned earlier, been messing around with a bunch of other drivers. I was like, because at this point it's kind of like I spent 4.5 years on the T50, so it's like, do I really want to get into modifying another headphone? So I just kind of lost interest quickly and didn't order one. So.
Okay. I was about to ask you what you thought of them because I was like, hey, maybe that's somewhere you can go with the.
I get an email like once
Domni.
every 2 weeks about modifying the TH500 for people, and I'm just like, if I didn't have 4 models I was trying to sell, I probably would spend some time with it, but. At this point, I'm probably not gonna modify another Fostix model. So
Matt Economist said the Fostix Dynamics sound like Bayer Dynamic headphones, like just the bright V-shaped,
I mean, there's only so many options for drivers if you're going super cheap. So. Say it's a $200 headphone, right? Something about like that, or 150. If you think about it, Fostix has to be able to produce the headphone. I mean, so they're selling to the distributor at least 50% off for $75 or so, and then they have to make a profit. So I would say that whole headphone probably has to cost them like $20 to make. I mean, how many options can you have? So they're probably using the same driver. Who knows?
All right, Zach, we're going to play a little game here. Look to the right. Look to the left. How many Omnis do you have in arm's reach?
I don't have actual. I'm in my office right now. I'm actually at my desk. I've been actually modifying driver enclosures, but I mean, I have 11, wall stand things of different headphones, and there's, they're all full. But most of them are messed up in some way or another because otherwise they'd be shipped. And then I just got a box back from Portland that has I don't know, probably 10 or 12 headphones in it, and I realized after a while that I kept selling my show models as B stock, and then I'd have to make them all over again for the next show, and I'd start going to more and more shows, and I was like, I just need to have sets around. So now I have a set in Bacote, a set in Cocobolo, a set in Blackwood, a set in Cherry, Paddock, Maple, Purple Heart, and I think that's Zebrawood. I think that's
Zebrawood.
what I have. So I have one set of all of those that's stock and ready to be listened to. Yeah, you probably noticed I didn't say walnut. I just I don't know. I just have what I have against the walnut ones. I just never end up liking. So I don't bring them I don't bring them to shows or anything. So I have 10 to 15 Omnis around. Yeah.
Dang. All right, so I have one last question for you. I'm starting to forget what it was. Oh, yeah, now I remember. Okay, actually, Sound has a question. Let me unmute him because he's in
Unmute
here
him.
and he can ask it himself. All right, Mr. Slotus, Sound, ask your question, sir. All right, very riveting. Okay.
I couldn't hear him, so you'll have to repeat.
His mic isn't plugged in. Give me 10 minutes. We don't have 10. Oh, seconds. Okay, we'll give him 10 seconds. Meanwhile, I'm going to ask you a question myself.
Yeah.
So, can you explain the difference that larger pores or lack of pores or density would make in a wood?
Yeah. So pores are basically holes in a wood, and depending on the type of wood, they hold resin. And the resin can be different densities, or there can be less or more resin depending on the wood. And what I've found just through having 5 headphones next to each other that are all measured the same is that woods that are of less density and have larger pores will have more decay, more ambience. Things will seem maybe a little bit further away. And then headphones that have less or smaller pores and less resin and harder wood will have bass that sounds fuller, deeper, and faster. But the slight trade-off is that those headphones have a slight amount of more hash possibly, and that's most likely because I think some of you probably read on Tile's website that he compensates based on the room size or whatever of headphones for one of his measurements, and that's why he measures them in a few different positions and blah blah blah. And so people have asked me, hey Zach, why don't you tune the headphones different based on which wood they are to get the best sound out of them? And then my response to that is that I think that would make things infinitely confusing, especially for a customer, because as it is already, there's a bunch of different woods that have the same frequency response and yet different traits of the timber based on pore size. And if I were to do that, I just think it would be so. I chose a tuning that I felt worked the best for all of them. And to break it down to the most understandable thing, I think that you can think of a piece of paper that's smooth, and then you could set it on a table, and then poke a bunch of little tiny holes in that paper. And so if the paper has a bunch of little holes, like and wood, it's not going to go all the way through the wood, of course, but now you have all those little holes. Woods with larger pore sizes, there's all those little holes in the paper, so there's sound that's escaping a little bit, and not deflecting back as fast as if the paper were completely smooth. So like if you're breathing into the paper, oh, there's no air going through. Now there's a bunch of holes. I'm breathing into the paper. A little bit of that air is going through. It's the exact same thing with sound into wood, because all sound waves are is it's how air is moved around. So that, I guess that's the best way I can explain it.
Fair enough. Thank you. I know a lot of people asked that question. I was surprised it wasn't sheet here. I've asked you quite a few times what difference it makes, but it's always good to hear it straight from the source.
Yeah, and people ask me a lot too, what's my favorite wood, and honestly, I don't like saying, oh, this, I will say I'm not a huge walnut fan, but most of them sound pretty darn close, and you have to really go back and forth. And usually when someone's at my booth or whatever at a show, I'll be like, here, listen to the blackwood and then listen to the cherry, because those are the hardest one and then the softest one. And then they're like, they're always a little bit amazed at how they sound different. But if I had a favorite wood, I would choose Bacote, because it's basically blackwood but with pores. Blackwood has no pores. Bacote has small pores, and so you get just enough decay so it's not harsh, and you still get all that meaty sub bass, and it's a little bit lighter too, and it looks a little bit extravagant. But that's, if I had to choose one headphone Omni for myself, I would choose Bacote.
All right, we have a question from Slow Sound. Slow, is your mic working?
I believe so. I hope so.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. You're a little bit soft. I'm going to turn you up on the volume here. All right.
Okay.
All right, there you go. Go ahead and ask your question, my good man.
All right. My question is sort of a kind of a broad, spectrum sort of thing. It really pulls down to, like, what is your audio philosophy? Like, what are you looking for from, sound reproduction? Like, what sort of things do you look for? What things do you like? What things, what is your end goal? Like, are you looking for a pleasing sound? Are you looking for, an objectively good sound?
I'll try not to get too long-winded with this. Basically, after undergraduate school, I went to college when I graduated. I'm 32 years old now. I graduated from undergrad in 2006, and I became obsessed with building acoustic guitars, and playing music with people, guitar and banjo. And so when I started making headphones or tuning headphones 5 years ago or so, I just wanted to kind of replicate that experience of, what it's like to play an instrument and be able to listen to it and have that, get that same kind of feeling. And I think that kind of enhanced bass response below 100 hertz has a lot to do with me wanting to have that kind of feeling of a acoustic instrument pluck, that I can kind of feel a little bit. And I found the only real natural way to do that without, what's the headphone company that put the vibrational thing in their headphone? It's the without putting a PlayStation remote in your headphone, was to have bass that was a little accentuated. And so what comes along with that, my goal is really to make acoustic instruments sound as natural as possible, to my personal experience of being in a room with other musicians, and try to get proximity, placement, spatial awareness, and especially acoustic instrument timbre, impact, and feel as close as I can to what an acoustic instrument sounds like. And so what kind of has come through that is that a lot of electronic music does sound good with that same tuning, but that from the beginning has been my main goal and the kind of sound I'm going for. And what happens is that it doesn't lead to a sound that is graphically flat when measured, and it doesn't lead to a sound that has accentuated treble really in any areas, except for, of course, the peak you might get in the T50 driver.
Awesome. Well, then I had a random thought while sitting here that I just realized rumors don't really start very much in the headphone community. I don't know why that popped in my head, but I just thought I'd make that statement before I close this out. But anyway, thank you, everybody. It was fun. Thank you for joining, Zach. That was a pretty awesome thing to do. But yeah, thank you, guys. Guys, got anything
Come
closing?
dogs next week.
Yeah, maybe. Depends if Mad wants to do it. We'll get the cum dogger on. But yeah, so
Come dogger.
Cum dogger, Jesus.
So yeah, that was fun. Thank you for joining us, Zach. You can come on anytime you want.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Well, I will wait until I'm invited, of course.
Now, if you pop in one night, we'll be like, "Oh God, he's here! Everybody behave!"
Yeah.
And then we'll awkwardly wait for you to make an inappropriate comment, and then we'll join in.
Make sure to start some rumors.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
About
That'd be
Jude
awesome.
from Headphone.
Don't start. Don't. No bagged. Down boy. Anyway, yeah. Thank you, Zach. We'll don't worry, you'll get an invite again in the future because this has been fun. It's fun to pick a headphone guy's brain. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, and yeah, I mean, I try to be as approachable as possible. So if anyone ever has any questions that are appropriate, just send me an email or whatever.
Or yeah, don't send them inappropriate questions. We don't want to scare them off.
Yeah,
Anyway.
don't give me any nasty nicknames about Blackwood or anything.
I Google Blackwood, sir, and I did not come up with headphones. I hold you responsible for burning the irises in my child's eyes.
Yeah. Well, that's his fault for having his child there with him.
Have you ever had a comment like that from somebody?
About there was one point when when I first started, I said crap or something on my website in a blog entry or something, and somebody emailed me and said they were offended by my swearing on my website or something in my blog.
Well, shit. I hope that doesn't fucking happen here. God damn.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, it's been fun. It's been real fun, but I gotta end the podcast at some point. So thank you, everybody, for joining. It was a fun time, and see you in another 2 weeks. Adios.